Hey guys, it's Steven, the Armchair Emperor here, and I'm here today to show you guys some 54mm Napoleonic painted toy soldiers. I'd like you guys to keep in mind throughout this video that these miniatures were painted 6 years ago by myself and my cousin before we had our painting techniques down, so the work's a little shoddy. And I only say that because I do painting commissions and I don't want this to be representative of my current work. In addition to that, they were stored improperly in plastic bags for those 6 years. And we did use them for many tabletop war games, which we played pretty rough with them as well. So, bearing that in mind, they'll be a little chipped and dinged up, and the paint jobs aren't terrific, but they do look pretty awesome anyway. Especially when they're all ranked up like this, and you guys can see what a large army it is. There's probably, upwards of 300 miniatures here, I would say. And most of them are by a company called Armies in Plastic, which is based in upstate New York. Run by a gentleman named Tony. He's really great. You guys can check out his website at www.armiesinplastic.com, and you can also get them from other vendors as well. So without any further ado, this is the Napoleonic Russian army which we have put together. So I'm going to start from right and work my way left. In the back here we have the white-coated cavalrymen of the Russian Imperial Guard. And in front of them we have a 5-man unit of Lancers in dark blue with the white Żabka hats, the Polish type hats. They're called Uhlans, or Uhlans depending on how you pronounce it. And they're Armies in Plastic British Lancers with a very similar uniform. In front of them we have some Hussars by a maker called Timpo. They're an old, I believe, English make. And I painted them up to look like the Pavlograd Hussars, which of course is the famous regiment from War and Peace, which the characters were a part of. In front of them we have some Russian line infantry in gray. They're also Armies in Plastic. Gray coats would have been worn over the green, which was more common during campaigning season in the winter. In front of them we have some HAT, H-A-T, all capital, that's the maker. Russian line infantry without the plumes on their hats, white pants and characteristic green coats. They're nice little sculpts. On the front right here we have some Huns by I think a company called Jackson, I'm not sure. But in any case, the Huns were using as Bashkirs, which were a Asiatic tribe of archers which served with the Russian army during Napoleon's time. Here in front we have some French Dragoons from HAT, which I've painted up to look like Russian Dragoons. In the front here we have some BMC Hessians in the mitre caps. I've painted them up to look like Russian Grenadiers of the earlier Napoleonic Wars. Behind them there's these really cool Russians. Now I didn't paint this particular line with the brown bases. They're from www.classictoysoldiers.com. I'm not sure if Classic is the actual maker or if that's just the distributor. But in any case, they come with these really great little banners, which are awesome. They're printed paper, and they have the Russian double-headed eagle along with the imperial crown, which is pretty cool. And they come painted up like this with a nice basic paint job. Really durable and sturdy too. Behind them we have in the flat campaign caps here Russian opolcheni, which is a term for militiamen or National Guardsmen, uniformed militia. These are the opolcheni from St. Petersburg in green. Behind them are the opolcheni from Moscow in brown. Both of these regiments are what they are. They're from Armies in Plastic. Behind them, these guys, which are really poorly painted here, they came mostly painted, and then I just touched them up a little bit. I forget the make of these guys, but they're just Russian line infantry. And behind them we have a company called Accurate. These are 1776 American militia, which I've done up to look like any sort of period militiamen. In this case they're Russians. Here we have some Cossacks. The blue for the Imperial Guard Cossacks, the brown for some Cossacks who are not from a regular regiment. To the left here, those are both Armies in Plastic as well. We have some Armies in Plastic tri-corner hat Dragoons. These here are painted up as Russian line cavalry, basically regular cavalry. And the orange facings are of a regiment that I got out of an Osprey publishing book. It's the Russian Army of the Napoleonic Wars, Volume 2. I forget the regiment though. Here in the middle we have more of those accurate American militiamen, 1776. I painted these guys up to look like armed civilians, which we'll use in Revolutionary War times, for sure, which is what they are. But they can really serve as any armed peasants or just sort of civilians, armed civilians of the period. I painted them with all different clothing. And certainly during the retreat from Moscow, many of the Russian people in the cities and in the countryside and in the suburbs chased Napoleon's army during the retreat. Here in red we have some Timpo hussars, and I've painted them up to look like the Russian Guard hussars. They wore red. In front here we have some accurate British line infantry in the tri-corner hats, painted up to be Russian infantry in the tri-corner hats from early Napoleonic era. Although some historians will argue that the tri-corner hat was still worn even around the time of Austerlitz, as was the mitre cap by the Grenadiers. That's just sort of a little debate on uniforms, which some historians have. These are more tri-corner hat Russian infantry. This time they are Russians, not the English painted to be the Russian uniform. These are from Armies in Plastic. These are their 7 Years' War Russians. But they serve as good Russian line infantry, basically from the 7 Years' War up into the early 1800s. There's slight variations to the uniforms, but nobody really notices, and as long as you let people know, they don't mind. Behind them here we have some Armies in Plastic Cossacks, this time in green. About 15 of them there. And on the left here we have my favorite unit. They are the Russian Grenadiers from the 1812 campaign. These are Armies in Plastic, and don't they just look awesome all ranked up like that? The white and the green with the red plumes. All the steel on the bayonets, and in that deep column formation you really get an idea for how impressive the formations were during the Napoleonic period. So it's pretty cool. I'm hoping that you guys get to see these soon. We picked up an Osprey Publishing war games book called The Chosen Men, which is a skirmish game based on the Peninsular Campaign, but the rules can be easily adapted to any Napoleonic infantry, cavalry, and artillery, which you want to use. So we definitely want to do some 1812 stuff, but we're probably going to start out with the Peninsular War. We have some allies painted up for the peninsula, and we're also going to have some French forces and also some allies of the French painted up. So this has been Steven, the Armchair Emperor, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little miniature showcase video, and we'll be coming to you with some battle reports soon. Also, remember to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon. Thank you guys, and this is the Armchair Emperor signing out.